Nice. Ships passing in the night. Brilliant. Actually, that's actually quite a decent sized container ship. Good afternoon, friends. So, a blast furnace of a day. But I finished work and I went with singular focus to find the Ivorian consulate. I had a bit of a scare actually. I was researching with some time on my hands visas for my next two countries, so Liberia and the Ivory Coast. My search online actually scared me because the only EVT you can get for the Ivory Coast is for landing in a plane. And I was beginning to get like, oh my God, do I have to go back to Conakry, to the embassy there? But then I found on a traveler thread a mention of a tiny little office behind a kiosk in the center of Freetown. I managed to contact the guy on WhatsApp, say, hi, can you do this one? He said, yeah, come down. So I've dropped off my passport, paid my fee, and I have to come back tomorrow to pick it up. Then I've got to go to the Liberian embassy and do much the same thing. But that will be easier to find and probably a bit more difficult to obtain. Anyway, last furnace of the day. I'm on the hunt for a bar. Yeah. Yep. Right, so I found a bar. Cheers. Ice cold beer. Doing the wrist thing to cool myself down, which really works, you guys. Seriously. Anyway, a word about money. Now, as I mentioned, I just went to the Ivorian consulate, which is literally a tiny office on the ground floor of a fairly ramshackle building. And the man at the kiosk is the guy. Ambassador? I don't know. I'm very happy to have made it because I was getting a little nervous about the Ivorian visa because I tend to plan 2 countries ahead, and I was beginning to think I might have to backtrack to Conakry in Guinea, which would have cost me $100 each way to get the visa from the embassy there. But I did a deep dive, went on a few traveler forums, and I found a thread with an address, a name, and a WhatsApp number. I contacted him on WhatsApp. He said, yeah, I'll sort it out for you, come down. So I did. That's what I've been doing today. And it's currently being processed. I have to come back tomorrow morning to pick my passport up. And then I have to go to the Liberian embassy, which I think will be a little less easy. These things need to be done. I still have 10 days here, but get everything done early. Be prepared. The point is that the fee for the visa for Ivory Coast was 1,700 Leones, which is the local currency. It's $85 American, so call it 70 euros, call it 60 odd pounds. The point is that the highest denomination in this country is 20 Leones. That nice lady there, her name is Constance Cummings Jones, which is a very British kind of name. She lived, and she was 1918 to 2000, and was a fairly important lady. The point is, 20 is the highest denomination that you can get in this country because of hyperinflation in this part of the world. It was the same in Guinea as well. The point is that the maximum that you can get out of any particular one ATM visit is $800, which is obviously $40 or so. And that visa does cost me $1,700. The maximum you can get out at any one time is $800 because it's a wad of notes that thick. The sheer amount of cash that you have to walk around with here is insane. For that reason, because of hyperinflation way back when. I was talking to a Swiss friend of mine, his name's Rene. I met him in Bissau, saw him again in Conakry and here, which is three countries on the chart for a beer or two. And yeah, I mean, he works in Swiss francs, but the highest denomination in Swiss francs is 1,000. So to get like $1 million is a stack about that big. Whereas here, you know, for $1,700 to pay for an $80, $85 visa with a stack like that reminded me of Laos. Anyway, two things though that are making me very happy right now. I will have actual physical visas in my passport for both Liberia and Ivory Coast before I get to the border. Instead of faffing around with e-visas and printouts and God knows what else. Actual full-on stickers in my passport, which, believe me, makes me very happy. Yeah. That aside, I'm in a very good mood. I was worried. Well, not worried. I was annoyed at the possibility of potentially having to backtrack because of money and because I hate backtracking. I'm a traveler of direction. Fly in at one end of a continent and fly out the other. That's kind of my way. And backtracking annoys the fuck out of me. I had to do it a few times, it always bites. So sorting this out, it's a very good thing. Yeah. Morning, friends. A rather nice morning here in Sierra Leone. It's not too hot, which is good, although it probably will be later. That has been my office this week and will be for the next week, which is nice. It's just gone 8 o'clock. I just finished my only class for the day. It's a public holiday in Czech Republic. So I'm going to give myself a couple of hours, have breakfast, and then head off to pick up my passport from the Ivorian consulate, go to the Liberian embassy. Hopefully that will be a smooth trip to get that visa, and then try and find this mythical bar where I could find disposable vapes to use the next few weeks, because there's nothing that I've seen in Liberia. I have found a place in Abidjan, which is the capital of Côte d'Ivoire, which sells vape liquid in bottles, and then I can replenish my stocks. I'm probably just going to get 2 full 100 milliliter bottles just to try and last me, because this has been a bit of a nightmare actually. Anyway. So, after a torrential downpour, thankfully I was on a tuk-tuk at the time, but I'm now enjoying walking in the very light rain. I haven't even seen rain in months, so this is quite pleasant. I am British, after all. You know, I might try and sit down there for a minute.
I'm going to fill you in a little later on when I'm not sitting next to a main road. I'm just having a beer. But I have done everything I set out to achieve today. Fucking self-fight. I am so happy right now.
Evening, friends. So I'm sitting on the balcony of my guest house. A rather nice wraparound affair on the first floor with a solid roof overhead. And there's actually a fairly lovely little thunderstorm. About 6 or 7 clicks out to sea. Lightning, everyone's like that. God, I love storms. But it's not too strong right now. Anyway, an update that I forgot to add earlier on. So my day today, as I said earlier, I was off because it's a public holiday in the Czech Republic. And today was my day to sort out my visas for the next 2 countries, Liberia and then the Ivory Coast. I mentioned earlier that I'd had some issues with the Ivorian visa, but I got it sorted out in the end with minimal fuss, which was very nice. Picked that up this morning. And then I went straight to the Liberian embassy. I had heard a few bits and pieces, scuttlebutt, if you will, about that, and it was justified. There was a lovely, total job's worth who's responsible for such things. Yeah, and I had my charming smile and my patience turned up to 11. It wasn't actually that difficult. It was expensive, mark you. If you are in Sierra Leone and if you're trying to get a Liberian visa, have US dollars in cash on you, because the exchange rate with which I was provided meant that essentially I was paying $120 American for the visa, which is expensive. And also, I am very glad that it's my position, according to my self-imposed rules, that I sort things out as soon as humanly possible. I got here last Friday, I had the weekend, I've worked until today. So, because at first it said 7 working days to process it. Bear in mind the Ivorian one took 12 hours. But still, I managed to gain his written approval, to pick up my passport from the Liberian embassy next Thursday morning, so the day before I leave for Liberia.